Do you feel like you aren't getting the most out of your studio space? Do your mixes sound great in your studio, but terrible everywhere else? Well, you're in the right place because in this video, you'll learn the 3 most common ways that your studio is lying to you. By the end of this video, you'll be able to overcome these misperceptions to create mixes that sound great no matter where your audience is listening. But first, let's give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, DistroKid. DistroKid is the fastest and easiest way for independent artists to get their music onto online streaming platforms. You can upload as much music as you want for one low annual fee, and DistroKid never takes a cut. They have tons of free tools like the Spotify Canvas generator, which lets you search pexels.com for videos and crop them into the portrait format for mobile. It's a really handy tool to enhance your music that's free for all DistroKid artists. And Upstream, a free service for artists interested in record label opportunities. DistroKid artists can simply opt in to let labels know that they're open for offers. Get started with DistroKid today using the link in the description and get 7% off your first year's subscription. Thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring this video. So what's the goal of a studio? What is it for? A studio is a place where you record and listen to sound with precision and accuracy. But if your studio environment is not accurate, it won't give you a genuine perspective of the sounds that you hear, which is why your room is the first way that your studio is lying to you. In a studio, there's typically 2 spaces, a live room and a control room. The live room is where the performance or recording takes place, and the control room is where the engineer listens to the recording and makes adjustments. Our goal in each space is to achieve a balanced acoustic response by absorbing or diffusing early reflections and absorbing bass frequency buildup. This is crucial to ensure that we're hearing a balanced perspective of the instrument being recorded and not the room it's being recorded in, which can often be unpleasant. Capturing an acoustically dry recording allows you to place that performance in a different space with effects like digital reverb. If your recording is already roomy or noisy, this is just going to add mud and clutter to your mix. And of course, all these nuances become more noticeable once your control room is treated for a proper listening position. You can check out this video for more on setting up your listening position for mixing. So the solution here is to treat your space. I've made a few different videos on acoustic treatment, from building your own DIY panels to suspending clouds on your ceiling. If acoustic treatment is not an option for you, you could always use someone else's room. You can hire me at backburnerstudios.ca. Send me an email. I'd love to hear about your project and see how we can meet your goals. Or you could eliminate the room altogether and go all in on headphone mixing. I know that some people have had great success with this method, but headphones alone don't solve the problem. And neither does acoustic treatment, to be honest. Although it is a great step towards a balanced listening environment, it's not the only way you're getting fooled. And that's because number 2, your speakers are lying. A speaker driver needs to be in a cabinet to isolate the in-phase signal from the out-of-phase signal coming out the back. This creates a buildup of pressure within the speaker box, which acts like a pillow to push back against the driver as it moves. The pressure increase within the speaker box greatly affects the output of low frequencies, which can take a lot of energy to produce. So what you get is similar to a high-pass filter that chokes out your bass. A famous example of this being the Yamaha NS10, which has a sealed box design that is boosted in the mid-range and rolled off on the low end. To correct this low-end roll-off, many speaker box designs feature an air port or reflex port, which decreases air pressure in the cabinet, allowing the driver to move with less obstruction. The result is a lower and steeper cutoff that does not affect low mid-range frequencies as much, allowing the ported speaker to deliver a deeper bottom end to the listening experience. Comparing 2 speakers with similar sized drivers, such as the Yamaha NS10s and the Yamaha HS8s, can show that the frequency of the high-pass filter cutoff is determined by the volume of air trapped inside the box. The Yamaha NS10 have a 7-inch woofer with a smaller cabinet size and no reflex porting. Its low-frequency roll-off is at 60 Hz. The Yamaha HS8s have a 35% larger cabinet size with a reflex port, which creates a lower low-frequency cutoff at 38 Hz, providing a fuller listening experience with more bass extension despite having a similar woofer size. So if you're serious about accurate low-end reproduction in your mixes, remember that bigger is better when it comes to bass, and huge speaker cabinets will always have an advantage in that their low frequency cutoff is low enough to not be a problem for mixing. Luckily, most modern near-field speaker designs use reflex ports to reinforce the resonance of a speaker's low end. So the solutions here are to 1. Get massive speakers for more accurate bass. But really, an A/B speaker setup is essential to correcting this issue in combination with headphones or a friend who has a different listening space. Learn the ins and outs of the gear that you have available and use that to frame your target sound. For me, my Neumanns sound deeper or the bass sounds hotter on them, whereas my Yamahas, despite being bigger, sound a little bit thinner in my mix position. So I can use these two extremes to calibrate how much bass I add in my mix. I know that if it's really hot on the Neumanns, it might be a little bit much, but if the bass isn't in my face on the Yamahas, I don't need to go pushing the fader. Let me know if you'd like a video on how to set up an A/B speaker switch for your monitors and more about A/B monitoring. So now that your room is sorted and you've got some big booty speakers, there's nothing holding you back, right? You've got your studio all set up. But what about you? Specifically, let's talk about how your ears are lying to you. Our ears can be deceiving, and this can cause an inaccurate perception of sound. Our ears are sensitive organs that can become fatigued over time when exposed to loud or continuous sound. This can result in a temporary loss of sensitivity, particularly in the higher and lower frequency ranges, leading to a less accurate perception of sound. The fatigue of our ears can also affect our ability to perceive differences in volume and dynamics, making it more difficult to accurately judge the level of various elements in the mix. This can make it harder to make informed decisions when working on a track. So to solve this, it's really important to set your monitors at a consistent listening level for mixing. You've probably heard of the Fletcher-Munson curves, the set of graphs that show how our ears hear different frequencies at different loudness levels. It shows that our ears are more sensitive to some frequencies than others, and this can change depending on how loud the sound is. The curves show that at low volumes, our ears are less sensitive to high and low frequencies. Our ears are most sensitive to mid-range frequencies between 2 and 5 kilohertz, which are commonly associated with the intelligibility of speech. This is important to keep in mind when mixing music because it affects how we perceive the balance of different instruments in the mix at different volumes that can cause us to overcorrect if mixing too quiet. The dynamics of our hearing is most consistent at moderate listening levels, typically around 70 to 85 decibels. 70 dB is a great place to start for mixing in smaller rooms. That's what I set my big knob to. At this range, our ears are more sensitive to changes in volume and we're able to perceive a wide range of frequencies and dynamics accurately. However, it's important to note that prolonged exposure to any loud sounds, even within this range, can cause damage to our hearing. And that's why it's always a good idea to take breaks and listen at a safe level. One of the first videos I ever did was on the Pomodoro technique, which is a great way to incorporate breaks into your workflow to give your ears a rest when you're working in a studio or listening to music for extended periods. This can really help to reduce the risk of ear fatigue and ensure that you have a more accurate perception of sound. So to ensure that you're getting the most truthful and accurate sound, know the room that you listen and record in, and remember that it's often the forgotten link in the signal chain. Don't underestimate the power of good room treatment for accurate listening. Get the biggest speakers you can afford, and ideally a second pair of speakers or headphones so that you can do A/B tests and frame your desired outcome. And finally, set a proper listening level to give your ears the most balanced input and take breaks to keep your ears from getting tired and losing sensitivity. So let me know if this video helped you out and leave a like if it did. Do you have any other tips or ways that your studio might be fooling you? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring this video, and I will see you in the next one.
What is this in my head? Is it something you said? Clawing deeper inside, right where I can't hide. What is this in my head? Is it something you said? Clawing deeper inside, right where